This could be called the podcast that almost didn't happen. Because, Podsters, I really wanted to talk about this topic. And I asked a few friends and trusted advisors, and they said, yes, you should absolutely talk about it. I also feel like last episode we talked about glimmers and finding glimmers and being the glimmer. And this week's main topic is about this concept of hijacking joy, which I'm going to get into in a second. And also, the subcontext here is how to get yourself out of a funk. And the reason why I wasn't sure if I should talk about that this week is because last week we talked about look for the glimmers. And I feel like this is the Thrive High podcast. We are thrivers. And I feel like we should be talking about thriving. And it's about unicorns and living our best life and creating a life you don't need a vacation from, all of these really great, high idealistic ways to live your life. And the reality is, it's not always like that. The reality is, sometimes we're not thriving. So, how do we get ourselves back there? So, the reason why I decided to talk about it this week is because this poly perfect, curated, everything's always great, and I'm never gonna talk about anything negative. That is just not reality, and if there is anything we are here at the Thrive Hive podcast, it is authentic. So, with that, we're gonna get into it today. Welcome to the Thrive Hive podcast, the place where success meets reinvention, and nothing, I mean nothing, is off limits. I'm your host, Nancy Medoff, speaker, coach, best-selling author, and former corporate VP who knows firsthand what it means to leave a wildly successful career behind, to build a dream business in life, then blow it all up again when it's simply no longer enough. Here, we don't wait for permission to feel free. We talk about reinvention, aligned ambition, managing our energy, boundaries, and the power of surrounding yourself with the right women. This is not a networking group. It's not a therapy session. This is a space for elevated, honest conversations about business, life, and what it really means to thrive. So if you're ready to stop carrying it alone, ready to connect with women who get you, and ready to design what's next with clarity and confidence, come on in. This is your space. This is your time. Welcome to the Hive. And the main concept here that I want to talk about is this idea of what I call hijacking joy. So in the PR business or in the media business, public relations, and shout out to my PR followers, you know who you are. There's this concept called hijacking news hijacking. What that means is when there's a news story, you take that news story and then you turn it into content for you or your business or your brand. So, for example, I'm just making this up. I'm just going to pull this out of nowhere. So, let's say you sell low sugar, low sugar vitamins for kids. Okay, let's say that's what you sell. And that's what your company sells. And there's a news article, the FDA, we're in America, there is still the FDA last time I checked. The FDA just published a new study that shows that children the number of diabetic children is 4 times that of what it was 5 years ago. I am making this up. This is not true. I'm making it up. Okay. So you work for this company or you own a company that sells low sugar or no sugar children's vitamins. So you take this article and you hijack it. You take this news story and you say, the FDA just came out with a report that children are diabetic 4 times more times than 5 years ago. This is why our supplements can be part of a healthy lifestyle for your kids, and it can help reduce their chances of diabetes. Okay. So you take an existing article and then you hijack it and you use it for yourself. I know I am going to get a text message or a message from those of you that are in PR saying, not quite, but for me, it's close enough. I'm going to read. I'm going to read you a definition that I found that I really like because it really applies to the situation. So, news hijacking in this case, this definition is piggybacking, using the news of the day to your advantage, piggybacking to raise your brand profile. Here's why I love this definition. When I talk about joy hijacking or hijacking joy, I am talking about when you're not joyful, when we all have times where we're just blah and we're not feeling good, or maybe we're upset about something, or maybe we're in a funk and we can't get out of it. or, who knows? There could be any number of things. Maybe it's just life, who knows? And when you're in those times, I'm going to give you three things, but the first one that I want to talk about is this hijacking joy. Look around at the people you're spending time with and see if any of those people are, the type of person who, and I'm sure you have one in your life, they always emulate sunshine and happiness, or they're always positive and but they're genuinely always positive. They're not fake. They are genuinely joyful all the time, or more times than not, they're joyful. Find those people. Find those people because when you find them and you spend time with them, it will rub off. I'm going to give you a story and I guarantee you I'm going to get choked up. So the past, I'd say 2 months have been a little rough for me personally. Number of reasons. And we're on the upswing. So there's that, which is great. So one of the things, actually, this is number two. I'm going to reverse here. One of the things that whenever I get in a situation where like something really bad is happening or it's just not good or I'm in a funk or whatever, I remember that everything is temporary. And I love I taught myself this. I'm sure I heard it somewhere. Everything is temporary. So when you are in the thick of it and when you are in the mud and when you are you can't see a way out, remember that everything is temporary and this too shall pass. Same goes for when you're on top of your game. When you're on top of your game and you're hitting it on all cylinders and you're the boss and everything's great and you're balling and riding dirty and all that stuff and everything's great. Remember, it's temporary. Enjoy it because everything is temporary. And you never know what's around the corner, and tomorrow is not guaranteed. We all know that. So things have been a little not perfect lately, or not great, not very thrivey, if you will. Although I will tell you that during this time, because I walk the talk and because I care so much about this concept of you get to decide how you want to live. I'll tell you what, I have been getting all my steps in. I have been eating well. I have been hydrating. I know in my brain that if I do not do that, it's gonna snowball and I'm gonna be a lot worse off. So if you keep coming, if you keep listening to the podcast, you keep showing up in the community, the things that we talk about will become habit. And that's how you thrive. That's the point of the Thrive Hive. Anyway, so besides everything is temporary, this concept of hijacking joy. So, as you know, this is where I'm going to get emotional. My friend teaches Zumba. Yes, Podsters, I Zumba. Okay. I live on the Outer Cape. There's not a lot in terms of kind of creative exercise classes. There are a lot of great classes. There's great ways that you can exercise. We have beautiful seashore. We have beaches. We have all the things. We get great boot camps and stuff like this. I love to go to Zumba. All right. I'm not ashamed to say it. One of the reasons why I love to go to Zumba is because my good friend teaches it. She's a Zumba instructor. And there was a class last week and she'd been away for a while. I was away before that and I hadn't seen her or been to this class in a while. And and by the way, it's a super fun community. And I mean, you dance for 50 minutes, 50 minutes, you dance. That's all you do. How cool is that? It's like jazzercise, and I'm dating myself, only it's a little more edgy, if you will. So anyway, so I go to the Zumba class and I'm not great, right? Not emotionally great. And I walk into the Zumba class and I'm like, okay, here we go. We're Zumbaing. We're, moving around. I'm doing all the things. And the Zumba instructor, my friend, she is up there. Like, first of all, she's head to toe neon clothes because that's the Zumba uniform. You dress a little crazy. She loves what she does, and she is smiling the whole time, and she's being a total goofball, and she's smiling, and she's having a great time. She's dancing around, and other people are dancing, and there's people there that look like they're like 1960s throwback outfits. There's, people it's awesome, and it's hilarious, but in a good way, because everybody's just there to dance, exercise, and feel good. That's it. We're there for the endorphins. So she's up there on that stage and she's having a blast and she's got a smile from ear to ear and being a little goofball. And I couldn't help it. Like I couldn't help but smile and giggle and get into it and forget about everything that was on my mind for a few minutes. It was hard in the beginning. I was still like, okay, well, I got this and I got that. And then she's just up there grinning the entire time. Great music, a lot of fun. And I was able to lose myself a little bit in her joy. because she loves what she does. It's joyful for her. So I thought to myself, "Oh, I'm stealing her joy. I'm hijacking her joy, not stealing it from her. I'm letting it come off of her and onto me." And, I ended the class. I was in a much better mood. Of course, there's the endorphins and the exercise and all that stuff. And at the same time, I was thinking, how many times do we get in a situation or a period, a week, a month, a day, 6 months, who knows, where you kind of go inward. My instinct is to go inward. I don't like to tell people when I'm upset. I mean, I will if it's relational and I'm upset about something someone said or someone hurt my feelings or whatever. I don't like to, I'll ask for help, but I don't like to say, things are okay right now, but not great. And here's why. Just not who I am. And you think about when you're in these funks, if you're not talking to people about it, there's no venue, there's no outlet for you to release these feelings, and there's no other perspectives. And by going to this class, I was able to, for like 30 minutes probably, hijack her joy and feel her joy and feel the joy myself. And those endorphins got me through the rest of the day. And my outlook was a little better than it probably would have been. And from there, it kind of snowballed, just snowballed. So I started the day a little more joyful and my outlook changed and I wasn't glass half empty, which I'm usually not anyway. But let's admit it, Podsters. There are times when you're like, are you kidding me? Like, what else is going to happen today? That is simply a reality. We're not sunshine and unicorns all day, every day. So, by borrowing that joy for a little bit from my friend who would have gladly given it to me, and she doesn't know this, I never told her this. By borrowing that, it was able to really kind of reshape my day, which reshaped my week, which reshaped my outlook. And you never know that little joyful moment or that little glimmer, if you will. This was like a glimmer on steroids that's going to help change the trajectory and going to help you get out from under whatever this funk is. So, this leads to my next or one of the upcoming episodes is I really want to talk with this community about your personal board of directors. And I talk about this in my book, Unmute Yourself. And we've talked about it on the podcast before. And what I mean by personal board of directors, it's not necessarily your friend group. This is people who know you and people who know you well enough to help you make informed, good decisions, people who are invested in your outcomes, people who aren't afraid to give it to you straight. You do not want people who are going to say yes to you all the time or agree with you all the time. You want people who are going to call you out or people who are going to say, well, I'm not sure if that's the right move for you. And here's why. Anyway, I digress. That's going to be in a future episode. Back to the hijacking joy. So, again, I was hesitant to record this podcast because I didn't want to come in here talking about how to get out of a funk again when I kind of feel like that's a little bit what we talked about last week. Not really. I guess we were talking about the glimmers. Anyway, thank you for coming on this journey with me in my head. So we have remember everything is temporary, hijack someone's joy. And then the last is, and I will say this every episode if I have to, until all of us remember, believe it and remember it. You get to decide what gets your energy. Every day, you get to decide if you have a toxic boss who is terrorizing you. Maybe you're in a position where you can't up and quit your job. Many of us are in that position where we cannot up and quit our job. Perhaps you can start laying the foundation for when you will find a better opportunity. Or here's how I'm going to go about getting out of this situation. I do this with every single one of my one-on-one clients who's in the corporate space or who's working with somebody that they believe is toxic and that they don't want to work with. And every single time, the minute you start taking action towards removing yourself from that situation, you'll feel better. It's not going to go away magically, but you will start to feel a little better. It'll be easier for you to handle it. You get to decide what gets your energy. And if you have, let's say, we talked about this last week. I think I referenced somebody's mother-in-law, maybe. So you decide every day what gets your attention. And for me, There are some times where something has to get your attention. So let's say something's blowing up at work and it's your fault and you need to fix it. Well, that needs your attention, right? So that's something that can be stressful and produce anxiety, and you really can't blow that off. If there is a person in your life that, let's say they're passive aggressive, or let's say, oh, I just finished watching White Lotus. I'd love to know what you think about that, Podsters, because I found this season to be a little disturbing on many levels. I thought it was a little dark. I mean, they're all dark, but I think this one was it was a little too dark for me. I'd love to hear what you think. Shoot me a note, hit me up on Instagram, let me know what you thought of this season. Anyway, if there's, let's say it's in your friend group and there's a frenemy that you get a weird vibe from, and you're like, was that really a compliment or was that passive aggressive or what? You get to decide if this person stays in your life. You decide what you tolerate. And if somebody is being abusive, if someone is being passive aggressive, if someone is being difficult, to a certain extent, you get to remove yourself from the situation. There's no one forcing you to stay in that situation, whatever it may be. It could be a relationship. It could be a fight with a sibling. It could be any number of things. You get to decide how much attention you give it. Okay, so I feel like I'm kind of beating that one to death. 3 things you can do to get out of the funk. 1, remember everything is temporary. 2, hijack joy, someone else's joy. And 3, remember that you get to decide what gets your attention. And if it's not working for you, it's not working for you. You don't, there's loyalty and there is commitment. And if you listen to this podcast, I know right now, you are a caring, kind person. And at a certain point, if a situation isn't working for you, you can leave. You can leave. You can end it. You can find a new job. You can stop contact with that sibling for a little while if this is what's going on. You can set a boundary. You can physically remove yourself from the situation. You can avoid the situation. You don't, you get to decide. And I want to make sure that everybody knows that, because I'll tell you, the ability to know that and then action that and behave that way is a game changer. It is a game changer for a life where you thrive. Toxic negativity or toxic people, you don't get a seat at my table. You just don't. You don't. And if it's unavoidable, then I figure out a way that either I will remove myself from the table or you will be removed from the table. It's just not an option. So how's that, Podsters? Okay. So with that, here's what I'm going to tell you is going to happen over the next several weeks. I am bringing multiple guests on. I am heading on and I'm throwing this out there in the universe so that I actually do it, Podsters. You can keep me accountable. I am heading on a fairly long vacation, going to a fabulous place in 2 places in the Middle East. And I will be showing up here every week with either an interview or me talking about a topic. And I will, when I come back from these couple of weeks that I'm going to be out of the country, which is going to be, I think, mid-June that I come back, I am going to be so fired up and there is going to be so much happening with the Thrive Hive. So the reason I'm telling you this is so that I am now holding myself accountable and I will now have to make sure that I send out a podcast every week. So let me know what you want to hear about. Let me know what's working. Let me know what's not working. Let me know how you're thriving. Let me know your definition of thriving. Let me know if you try hijacking some joy to get you out of a funk. I'd love to hear it. Let me know which of these 3 tactics you think you can use. Hit me up. Let me know. I'll throw you a copy of my book. I have some great Thrive Hive swag. I'll get that out to you as well. And I will see you next week. And until then, peace out, Podsters. Now, go thrive like you mean it. That's a wrap, Podsters. Thank you for tuning in to this week's Thrive Hive podcast. Hopefully, after listening today, you're feeling a little more fired up, a little inspired, or maybe a little more like yourself and like the person that you know you're meant to be. And if you loved today's episode, take a screenshot, share it on Instagram, tag me, I love to see where and when our Thrive Hive is growing. And if you're thinking about someone who you think should really listen to this episode, send it her way, because we all deserve to go out and live that life we work so hard to build. Now, go thrive like you mean it.